Namaste everyone, this is Dr. Aisha Butalia. I welcome you all for today's session on concurrent transactions. This is the continuation topic of transactions subject topic of the database management system. Okay, so we had discussed in our previous presentations what is transaction, and we had also discussed how it is uh, when different transactions at one instance try to occur, then concurrency takes place. So our today's topic of the presentation is concurrent transactions. So the outline of the lecture is what is concurrency, difference between concurrent and parallel transactions, advantages of concurrency, issues in concurrency in transactions, that includes with example of each the four types of issues, that is dirty read problem, lost update problem, unrepeatable read problem, phantom read problem. So we are going to discuss this one by one with an example and ending with the types of schedules, that is serial and non-serial. So proceeding, what is concurrency? So basically, concurrency is to execute two operations at the same time. There can be physical concurrency, that means multiple processors on the same machine distributed across networked machines. There can be logical concurrency, that is illusion of partial parallelism. This we had discussed in the topic of transactions, where we had highlighted about the loosely coupled and tightly coupled systems, but we will have a recap of that. So basically, concurrency is the ability of a database system which handles simultaneously or a number of transactions by interleaving parts of the actions or the overlapping. This is called the concurrency of the system. Now, how it is different from parallelism? Now, in distributed systems, there can be multiple processors which are basically used to achieve one job. But in parallelism, multiple processors are being used to do multiple jobs. Now in concurrency, that one job is divided into subparts and hence they are doing independently. But ultimately, they have to perform the single aim. They are all performing for the single aim, and they have together in the end, after they complete their independent execution, and combine it to one. So synchronization is very, very important for concurrency. It can be a centralized system where one processor can process multiple jobs at the same time. How? In operating system, there is a running state, there is a ready state, okay, there is a waiting state. So all these jobs, they feel that their job is being held at priority. For example, when a process is being executed by CPU, another process is being ready. Ready means the resources are being seen and allocated. Okay, so even the process 2 is assumes that that process is being exclusively done, but actually this is not happening. Whereas in parallelism, it is exclusively done. And why it is exclusive, we say, because in parallelism, every processor has its own individual memory on which it is working. So parallelism is more like a multi-computer environment, whereas concurrency is more like a multi-processor environment. So multi-processor environment, it is a loose, tightly coupled system because memory is being shared. Okay, and we are targeting on single input, okay, and single output. Or it can be multiple output, or it can be multiple input, single output. But in parallelism, it will be multiple input, multiple output, and no shared memory. So it is a loosely coupled system. So we say that it is happening concurrently, means it is happening at the same time, but single processor is being used. But in parallelism, it is actually happening simultaneously, means at a single instant, two CPUs are working independently. So what are the advantages of concurrency? Why we are giving so much focus to concurrency control? So the good is to serve many users and provide better throughput by sharing resources. So for example, if CPU is idle and the process is being in the ready queue, that time CPU is being idle, right? So to increase the throughput, if one is being processed, another is being ready, and then the another becomes ready, it goes to the process in the running state, and then the third process becomes ready. So this is similar to that of pipelining. So in pipelining, we have an assumption that our process is at the priority, but actually multiple processes are being executed at the same time. Why? Because to reduce the waiting response time or the turnaround time. Okay. For example, if I am the teacher and multiple students come to me for their doubts, if one person requires 4 hours and another requires 10 minutes, okay, so I may take the algorithm of the operating system shortest job first, and I will take the 10 minutes student first and then the second student. Why? Because the waiting time would be 10 minutes for the for the person whose doubts has to be cleared in 4 hours. You know, a lot of concepts has to be discussed again. But if I take the first person who requires 4 hours, then the waiting time, average waiting time would be 4 hours, because the second person has to wait for 4 hours. So we need to reduce the waiting time. Now, why waiting time is required? Because there is only one processor. That means only one teacher can be I can singly, I can only be available to one student if I have to take one by one. Okay, so that is why this waiting time and the turnaround time is required. Increased throughput or resource utilization. Okay, so even my waiting time would decrease because students are in a queue. Otherwise, you know, one student will come at 1 p.m., another student will come at 4 p.m. So I have to wait for 5 hours in that time, or in between 3 hours. So, you know, this is again, you have to increase resource utilization. So even my waiting time would decrease. If we run only transaction at a time, then the asset property is sufficient. Okay, because if it's only one transaction, there's no problem. If only one student has approached me, then there is no problem. Either he will have no waiting time, he or she, or neither I will have a waiting time. Okay, but the problem occurs when there are multiple transactions. Okay, then the data becomes inconsistent. For example, there is a file, okay, which has to be read by 4 people concurrently, then it's not a problem. But if a file has to be read by one student and written by another student, so what should be done? Either the file should be read first and then should be available for other for writing. Then obviously the student who read the file would have read the unupdated copy. Okay, so we have to take care about the consistency aspect in multiple transactions. You know, there are a lot of concepts are being involved of operating systems, and the basic concept of even normalization has to be taken care when you go through the asset properties, especially for multiple transactions. Next advantage is overlapping with the input output activity with the CPU also makes the response time better. So not only on the client side or the processes side waiting time, but also on the resources time. That's why I said not only the students waiting time, but even teachers waiting time would decrease, and that is called as the CPU response time. It is also made efficient. So, you know, this example you can relate that the jobs or the processes or the transactions are the students and the CPU is the teacher. Another example is, for example, you are doing a railway ticket reservation. So, you know, at one instant, n number of people are trying to have the same seat. Now, there are only 4 seats available. So, who would be given that seat? Okay, but every person feels that I was the person because when he saw, okay, that seat was available. But a fraction of second, the other took the chance. Okay, so this concurrent transactions is about fraction of second. But yes, that fraction of second will prioritize first come first basis. Even for movie ticket reservation, this can be example of multiple transactions, and there you need to handle the concurrency control. Sometimes we try to order some products on Amazon and only 2-3 pieces are available. The moment we try to do billing, it is said that it is not available, because in fraction of seconds, lakhs of people are accessing Amazon. So in 3 seconds might be some other people just ordered. So it should not happen that your money has been deducted and then it is said that okay, the products become out of order. Maybe a microsecond difference is there and your money got deducted, but then there is a refund. So that is again a way how to handle the concurrent transactions. So the another advantage is interleaving. So what is the problem arises that these advantages, but interleaving of instruction between transactions may lead to many problems, due to which concurrency control is required. Okay, so these concurrency aspect, obviously in a distributed system or in a pervasive systems. Okay, today we are in the world of ubiquitous system, anywhere, anytime application. We are taking the lectures online from anywhere and people are accessing from anywhere. Okay, so we are in the era of ubiquitous and pervasive system, and it arises from much more root of distributed system. And I said in the earlier lectures that distributed system is the major example of internet and mobile application. This is the technology at the back end. So but the drawbacks are also there. So drawbacks is that it leads to a lot of issues, and hence concurrency control becomes a major part. So what are those problems or the issues which arise due to concurrency? First is the dirty read problem. So what's a dirty read problem? If a transaction reads an uncommitted temporary value written by some other transaction, then it is called as the dirty read problem. Let's see the example. It will be more clear. If we have two transactions, T1 and T2. Now it is seen here that T2 initiated first. So there is a read operation on data item A by T2. There is a write operation on data item A by T2. Now read and write, as we said earlier, read means that the copy of item A is being done from the hard disk to the main memory so that it can be read. Write means vice versa. The updation has been done on the writing on the data item A, and unless and until commit is done, the data is not saved back to the hard disk. So write operation is just the updation operation. Okay. So here now T1, after this write operation by T2, now T1 is trying to read. But since this wasn't committed, okay, and if there is a system crash after say write operation, okay, then probably this transaction had to be rolled back. Okay, because we say that when the save operation performs, then only the data gets saved to the hard disk. If there is a system crash in between, this is the basics of transaction chapter, which we had done earlier. So if the system crashes in between, okay, the atomicity of asset properties of transaction, what it says, either it should be null or full. But since there was no commit operation here, it will be null. So it will be rollback. Okay, so this T1, what it will read? Okay, so because it was not committed, but it assumed that T2 had written the transaction. And in concurrency, everybody feels that it is the only transaction which is being happened at priority. Okay, so that is why this is called as dirty read, because here T1 will have the assumption that it is reading data item A after the updation, but it is not 100% true. In case of system failure, this may not be the case, and that is called as dirty read. Okay, so in this one transaction read a data item updated by another uncommitted transaction that may be future be aborted or failed. In such cases, the read value disappears from the database upon port. This is turned on dirty read. The reading transaction end with incorrect result. For example, read A item was 5. After write it became 10. So this T2, T1, this operation was expecting 10 value of A. But if there was a system crash, we will get only 5. So this was the incorrect result. So the values of item X, which is read by T2, is called dirty read data, because this data can be created by the transactions that has not been committed yet. Now going to the next issue. Okay, we are under the topic, what are the problems or the issues that arise due to concurrency. So second issue is lost update problem. It is also known as write-write problem. Okay, so this problem occurs when two transactions access the same data item and have their operations interleaved in such a manner that the data items are incorrect. Okay, this will be more clear with the example. So if transaction T1, transaction T2. In transaction T1, data item A was read by T1 and then it was written by T1. After it was written by T1, T2 initiated a write operation on data item A. Okay, now if there are two write operations, see these are the two write operations of different transaction on the same data value A, and in between them there are no read operations, then the second write over, okay, this is called as lost update. Why? Because since it is not read, that means it wasn't committed. So whether this write is complete or this write is complete. Okay, so without reading the data, if somebody tries to write the data, then it can be doing this data becomes corrupted and the updations becomes lost. Okay, so this type of scenario is called as blind write. That means by blind write, because T2 tried to write on data item A, okay, without even reading that data item. Why this is called blind write? Because here the changes made by transaction T1 are lost, which is updated by the transaction T2. Now see again here, if suppose a value of A is 5, then it was written as 10 by T1. If there is a system crash over here, okay, T2 was assuming that he is writing on the value 10. But since this wasn't committed and this wasn't read, since it wasn't read, it was not confirmed that it was 10 or 5. Okay, and if there was a system crash after this operation, since this was not committed, this could have assumed it as 10 and done the updation. So this would have been generated incorrect result. And that is why this is called as blind write, and blind write problem. This is called as lost update problem occurred due to concurrency. Third type of issue that occurs in concurrency transactions is the unrepeatable read. Now what is that? Have a look. This causes a problem while execution of some exaggerate by a transaction, and due to changes in the value of the data item by another transaction, it leads to incorrect result. So when a transaction read values of data item twice, highlight this, data item twice, okay, and another transaction updates the data item in between, the results of the two read will differ. Let's see an example. What it is saying, that there is a write operation between two reads. Then this is called as unrepeatable read. Why this is happening? Because say here the value of A is 5. Then this value after write becomes 10. And since this is not committed, there was a power failure. So this will read what value? If there was a no power failure, then it's okay. But if there was a power failure, then this would read 5. But if there wouldn't have been power failure, it will read it as 10. So if would have been power failure, then also we are not sure that whether write operation was performed or not. And if suppose there was no power failure or the crash, here the value of A would be 5, here the value of A would be 10. So this T2 transaction will be confused, because in concurrent transaction, again I will repeat, transaction assumes that it is only transaction which is being executed. So how can a transaction have a value 5, few seconds before and then 10 after, because it's not aware that this is being happened. Okay, and that is why this is called an unrepeatable read. So I'll again repeat, when a transaction read values of data item twice over here, it is twice. So when a transaction read values of data item twice and another transaction updates data item, another transaction updates data item between the results of the two read operation, then the two read operations data value will differ. So the fourth type of issue that arises during concurrency is phantom read problem. Now what is that? When a transaction cannot repeat the read instruction because the variable is deleted by some another transaction, then this is called as phantom read. So a delete operation is required here in between. So previously there was a write operation between the two reads. Here, if you notice, there is a delete operation between the two reads. So it is similar to that of unrepeatable read, but there was a write operation. There was a delete here there is a delete operation. Now what is the difference? Here also a item is 5. It got deleted. So here when it tries to read the value A, it is said that the data item does not exist, or maybe it will get the garbage value. So this is called as phantom read. Okay, so unrepeatable read and phantom read, they are somewhat similar. The only because they are similar, because transaction T2 in either of the cases becomes confused because it may have two different values on the same data item during the read operation. Okay, the only difference is that in unrepeatable read, between the two read operations there was a write operation, and over here there is a delete operation. I hope you are finding this very simple. If you just revise all the four concurrency issues, it would be very easy. First is the dirty read. Okay, in dirty read problem, okay, we are trying to read the data before the commit operation, so we may get different values, incorrect values again. In lost update, since again this is called as a blind write, before reading the value it is trying to update it. So it may, if there is a system crash over here, it may feel that it is doing an updated copy without reading. It may create incorrect results. Okay, and unrepeatable read, there is a write operation happening between two reads of the same transaction. This will cause create confusion over here. Again, there will be a confusion over here because there is a delete operation between two consecutive reads in the same transaction. Now, since if there is only one transaction, so this asset properties would not create any issue. Okay, but if there are more than one transactions, then probably the issues have arisen. Okay, so a transaction, so a series of transactions, okay, that is called as a schedule. So what is a schedule in terms of definition? A schedule contains two or more transactions or one after the another. That is called as a schedule. Okay, so if there are more than one transactions, then that is called as a schedule. All the instructions of each individual transaction will appear in the schedule. Contact switching can be done, but we cannot change the order of the execution. Okay, now if we are going to shortest job first, then the processor has to has the right, okay, to swap the transactions. For example, there was two students, similar example. First came with some problem which had 4 hours discussion. Another student, it came just 5 minutes later and it had a problem which would have been discussed in say 10 minutes. But since the first student arrived 5 minutes earlier, we started that job. We couldn't have uh, aborted it or hold back to take the second job. Okay, so we can't change the sequence of the schedule in terms of multiple transactions. So what are the types of schedules? Schedule can be classified into two major types. First is the serial schedule. So if the schedule runs only one transaction at a time, then can start another transaction after computing the first transaction, then it is called as the serial schedule. So if there are n schedules, then n different schedules are possible. But you know, then what is the meaning of concurrency? Okay, because in that case, it will become a type of a queue. One is computed, then another is taken. So in such way, we are not being able to use the advantages of actually concurrency. You know, that is increase the throughput, increase the waiting time, and all these things. Okay, so this first type of serial schedule, it is just a type of schedule, but actually in concurrency, this does not play any role. So the another type is non-serial schedule, which is called as concurrent schedule. So what is that? Just have a look. A schedule is said to be a non-serial schedule if we start executing other transactions before computing the first one. Okay, so for example, there is one student who came with 10 minutes first and another also with 10 minutes. So what I will do, till I am solving the doubts of the first student, when we check the papers, we tell you to get the consent. You can check your papers whether it has been evaluated. You have some doubts in the evaluation, you have some doubts in the answers, okay, where you went wrong. So we tell the other first student, we solve it, their doubts, and we tell them to sign the consent signing. The moment they are doing consent signing, okay, we can check another student's problems, or till the moment we are checking the first student's problems, the another student can check out where their paper is in the sequence. Simultaneously, we take 2-3 students, you remember, in our consent signing. So same way, a schedule is said to be a non-serial schedule if we start executing other transactions before computing the first one, or rather we can say before completing the first one. So a serial schedule in which sequence of instructions of transactions appear in the same order as they appear in the individual transactions, but the instructions may be interleaved with the instructions of different transactions. That is called as concurrent execution of transaction has taken place. Okay, so I can take one student at a time. So if I one student at a time, if I take for consent signing, and if there are suppose 10 students, and if I give 10 minutes each, so 10 into 10 time would be required. But what I can do pipelining. Okay, how pipelining I will do? I will take first student. Okay, I will tell him that student to take out the paper. Okay, then I will call the second student. Then the first person, I will try to solve his doubts till the time second student will try to take out the paper. And then when the first student doubts are solved, I will tell him to do the consent signing, and I will take the doubts of the second student, and I will call the third student to take the paper from the bundle. So in such a way, 3 students have been taken care at a time. So you can understand that in order of 10 minutes each, we are handling 3 students in 10 minutes. Okay, so we will be decreasing our throughput time, we will be decreasing our waiting time, and so on. Okay, so these are the 4 types of problems which we discussed in our concurrency in multiple transactions. Now this is the example of the serial schedule. So transaction T1, okay, transaction T1, it is having these 5 instructions. It is completed. After that, transaction T2 starts. So this is a perfect example for serial schedule. This is another schedule A, which is again the example of serial schedule, okay, where we have read items, then we have updation on the item A, then we write the updations, then we again read another data item, we do some updations on data item B, and we write B. After this T1, all instructions, all these 6 instructions are completed, then only T2 starts. So this is again another example for serial schedule. Okay, there are two types of schedules we discussed. So these were the two examples for serial schedule. Now next, see the example of concurrent or the non-serial schedule. So here there is a transaction T1. Again, the 6 instructions are there, but how we have converted into a concurrent schedule? There is a read operation on data item A, there is a write operation on data item B, and then there is the transaction T2 will do the read operation on data item A. Then again T1 transaction will perform the instruction read on data item B. Then it will perform write operation on data item B. Then the data is committed, and again transaction T2 is initiated with read on data item B, and then the data is committed. So this is a perfect example of a concurrent schedule. So we end the lecture here. Thank you very much for your patience listening. If you have any doubts, you can ask me on the group or email me. This is Dr. Aisha Butalia, and we end the lecture here for the topic concurrency in transactions for the subject database management system. Have a nice day.